Hello. Right now I'm obviously in the vehicle, but I wanted to get on here and make a video real quick just to clarify something. And I'm going to try and keep a mental note to keep this to a point and to get to that point quickly and explain it and then be done, so that I'm not taking up all of your day and I'm not taking up my whole time, my whole drive time. Not that I'm driving. I'm not driving. But my whole drive time to where I'm going, being on this video. Children, be quiet. Stop arguing. So I posted a video to YouTube, and in truth, I don't honestly remember what all I said. I know I was upset, and not like dramatically upset or hysterically upset, but I did cry a little bit, did shed a couple tears, seeing videos of my niece on there, and CYS, Somerset County CYS, not keeping me up to date with where she's at and allowing me to keep in touch with her. I think I went into detail and explained what had happened. Maybe I could be wrong, because we did have her in foster care with us at one point. And then somewhere in that video, I'm sure I said something about my mother, who, and this is a fact, this isn't based off feeling, this isn't based off my own experiences I went through with her, this is based off of a fact. My mother is a narcissist. My father is emotionally absent and was a short-tempered man. Since he's gotten older, his temper has, I don't want to call that balanced out, eased out, whatever. My mother had called me last night. And mind you, that's not to say that I don't love my parents. That's not to say that, that they're not that way because of their own things that they went through in their own families or their own issues that they've had to deal with. And I'm not in any way trying to put my mom down when I call her a narcissist. I am just stating a fact. And she had called me up last night. I'm assuming that she had seen because I told her I'd found my husband found my niece's videos on YouTube. And she called me up last night and was hysterical, crying and saying how she missed her, and that's understandable. But then she quickly turned the conversation to me and started bringing up everything that I did as a kid. How bad I was as a kid. And honestly, I don't remember my childhood. And we've talked about this so many times. I am all for sitting down and talking out problems and hashing things out and getting down to the nitty and gritty. But at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. And the fact is, my mom is a narcissist. And the fact is, I still love her from a distance, because she has to work on her own stuff in order to be able to have a healthy relationship with anybody, including herself. You can't really be happy if you don't take accountability for your actions. And part of a narcissist problem is that when they do something, and I don't know if it matters who's pointing it out that they're in the wrong, but almost always, if somebody points out that they've done something wrong, they're going to quickly retract, do a 360, and then bring up everything that you've done wrong to them and how you've made them feel and point the finger back at you, because they can't handle accountability. That is a fact. That's not me being mean. That's not me judging my mother. And one of the things that she always says to me is, well, and I'm not perfect. I have my own issues. I'm very short-tempered. I struggle with depression and anxiety and PTSD. I struggle with other health-related issues. And I'm just putting this out there, so that she can't get on here and say that, she can hold something over me. Or try and say that, I have a holier-than-thou attitude, because I don't. I am one of the most humble people that you'll ever meet. And anyway, I'm getting off track. I'm trying to stay focused. So, just to clear the air, just to set things straight, there for a year, I did get my medical marijuana license in November of 2019. I let it expire this year because I personally found, and the reason why I got it was because through going through detox, through the herbalist and whatnot, since my health took a major decline after I had my kids, I would experience, children, please, I would experience a lot of days where I'd wake up and just be in pain. Like, nothing would help. No pain pills, no, my husband would rub my back. I would try topical solutions, like, what is that stuff that, like, icy hot and stuff like that, to try and help with that. I'd soak in bathtubs. Nothing helped. I would just have to lay there in pain all day. And so it was starting to take a toll. And I'm already still already dealing with mental health issues, like depression and anxiety. And so being in pain all day just really made it that much worse. So I decided to get the medical marijuana card so that even if I was in pain, at least I would be able to not feel it in the moment, and hope that, when I came back to a feeling state of presence, that it would have gone or dissipated at that point. Anyway, with that being said, I had decided to let it expire this past November in 2020 because I felt like it was, in the long run, as often as I was using it, it had started to become more of a habit, and I was using it just to use it because it was there and it was at my disposal, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to use it recreationally or for pure enjoyment reasons. I wanted to use it solely for medicinal reasons and healing. And once I realized that I was allowing it to become an addiction, I made the conscious decision to not renew it. And I wasn't going to put myself in debt or take away from my husband or my kids and their needs or necessities in order to try and afford a habit that we don't really have the money to afford. And so I let it expire. Back in, and prior to making this video, back at somewhere, what would you say, the end of June, beginning of July, something like that, I had went down to get my mom out of a relationship that she was in. I don't know if they'd been fighting and she just wanted out, but I went down and got her and brought her back with the hopes of, and it was my fault because I had high expectations, and for her, I don't know if it was the narcissism in her or the fact that she was just fed up in the moment with everything going on with him. And I'm not going to go into detail about the relationship because that's not my business, but I never liked the guy, and I have my reasons, and she knows what those reasons are. But I went down and picked her up because they'd gotten into a fight or something that day, and I said, well, you won't have to worry about it much longer because I'll be down there to pick you up. So I go pick her up, bring her back. She stays with us for a week, and I'm not going to air all her business on here, but things that pertain to me, that affect me, I will put on here. Not because I'm being vindictive, not because I'm trying to be disrespectful, because one thing that she constantly says to me is, the Bible says that you're supposed to honor thy father and thy mother. But she's taking one verse out of the whole book and trying to apply it to me because I'm finally taking a stand and not listening to her BS and not allowing her emotions to cause a reaction in me. So she's trying to basically tell me that I'm disrespectful. I know that that's not the case. I don't have to prove that to her anymore because I'm an adult and I see where the cycle starts, and I'm not going to give in to that cycle. But for anybody else who gets on my video and watches it and may think that I'm being rude or whatever, this is to help give a little bit more light on that subject or a little bit more of an explanation. Anyway, back to the boyfriend. So I brought her back, and the most I had ever done was drink and smoke weed. I'm not gonna lie, I did try coke a few times in my younger years. After trying it 3 times and not seeing a difference, a light bulb went off, and I thought, well, I'm not trying to get addicted, so I'm not gonna do it again. And I didn't. Other than that, that's the most that I've ever dabbled with drugs or alcohol or any form of addictions. And so I don't know. I'm naive when it comes to withdrawal symptoms and the other issues associated with harder drugs like crack, meth, heroin, those sorts of things. Acid, all those things. And I'm not mentioning those, saying that that's what my mom did or didn't do those. I'm just saying that I didn't realize that she was going through some form of withdrawal. And again, I'm not stating that to be vindictive or cruel or disrespectful. I'm just stating facts. And this pertains to me because it's important I give you guys a whole picture so you know her, like, what I'm dealing with, who I am, and kind of who she is. So you get a better understanding of where I was coming from. But I didn't realize bringing her up to my house that she was going through withdrawal. She came up and she was drinking. She went through at least 3 bottles of rum that week. She brought one up with her. I know we took her to the liquor store, or we went to the liquor store for her. Which was it? It was twice. Twice we took her to the liquor store while she was up here. And then my husband, he is a garbage man. He got a bottle, right? You got a bottle on route? No? I thought you did. Anyway, he either got a bottle or we went out and bought a bottle of rum. Or maybe it was gifted to him. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't rum at all. See? I don't have all the facts. We had went out and got a bottle of peanut butter whiskey. And I think he had maybe a shot out of it, if that. And the rest was in the freezer. Well, my mom had respectfully asked if we minded if she drank the bottle and then she would replace it. And, we weren't drinking anytime soon. And so I was like, sure, whatever. Knowing that in the back of my mind, not expecting her to pay it back because my mom said she was going to do plenty of things that she hadn't done. Not just recently, but in my childhood I can recall times. And that's not to dredge up the past and to constantly throw things from the past in her face. That's just not to paint a picture, but to give you guys a little bit of light into where I'm coming from with this whole thing. So when she came up, she went through 3 or 4 bottles of whiskey. And again, in that week, in that moment, in those days, I didn't realize that she was going through withdrawal. But my mom gets very belligerent when she drinks. And my mom also has, a past like the rest of us. We all have some form of trauma or abuse or neglect. So again, this is not to paint my mother as, per se, the bad guy. And I'm innocent and I've never done anything wrong, because I have done things wrong. I'm human. But just to give clarity to the previous video I posted, she had called me up and was upset about my niece's video that she saw, which was only one, and I'm assuming she said she saw my video, and at the end of my video, and in the comments, I put my number. Well, I did that for my niece in case she came across it, so that she would have my number and she could call me. And that's how my mom got a hold of me, because she doesn't have a phone at the time and she couldn't remember my number. And so she had called me hysterical about my niece, and then quickly turned the script on me and was throwing things in my face and telling me that I was disrespectful because the Bible says, honor thy father and thy mother. So she's taking one verse out of the whole Bible, out of the whole book, out of God's word, and trying to apply it to me when that verse is more pertaining to, and again, I'm no Bible scholar, so don't quote me on this. I could be completely wrong. But in my understanding, it's referring more to younger kids. In Ephesians, chapter 6. It's giving instructions to parents on how to treat their kids, and on children on how to respect and love and be obedient toward their parents. However, and this is in no way a video to say that it's okay to be disrespectful to your parents, because I don't condone that. I have done nothing but try to be very respectful to my mom. And one of the facts is that she was raised in a different era than I was. And in her era, there were things that you just didn't talk about. I grew up in the era of, I guess I would be considered a millennial. Although I do not act like a millennial. Of course, I guess that depends on the person watching the video. But she's trying to apply a verse of scripture to me, an adult child who was abused and neglected, and those are just facts. Again, I'm not bringing up things to kind of slap her in the face with or to get people to hate her, because that is not the thing. Narcissism is a form of disease. And narcissism, you become a narcissist when you've gone through so much trauma and hurt that it starts to turn you into a vindictive, irresponsible person. And you can't take accountability for your actions. You're so sensitive that you're easily offended by everything people talk about. Whether they're directing it towards you or not, you take offense to it. And narcissism and codependency I'm still learning about both, but the little bit that I have learned clearly tells me, the facts that I've learned clearly tell me that my mom has become a narcissist because of what she's been through, and I'm still in the codependency stage. And I'm working with a therapist right now to try and work out my own issues so that I avoid becoming narcissistic like my mother has. And that's just a fact of matter, that if you allow what you've been through to kind of dictate who you're going to be, or the type of person that you're going to be, or you're going to allow it to control you, it's going to turn you into a narcissist. And you're going to end up hurting people that you love, and you probably don't mean to do it. It just happens, and you're blind to how you treat them. And you're blind to your wrongdoing. And so this is just really to bring awareness to those that maybe know somebody that's a narcissist or codependent, and that to, I guess, encourage them to get help, because you can heal from that if you're willing to allow yourself to feel and go through what you've been through in order to heal and be on the other side of that, so that you can do better and be better, not just for yourself, but for those that you love in your own life. And she's trying to take this scripture, the one verse out of the Bible, and apply it to me as an adult child who our relationship is strained. She's been through her own stuff and has allowed it to make her or form her into a narcissist. And she still dredges up the past, and she uses that scripture to backfire at me and kind of project how she's feeling. I understand feeling guilty. I understand feeling bad whenever you hurt somebody you love. I've done it myself. I'm not proud of it, but it wasn't intentional. And just like with narcissists, it might not be intentional. But there are narcissists out there who know what they're doing. And I'm not saying my mom's one of them. I hope she's not. But they know what they're doing, and they still choose to do it. The fact of the matter is that you can't take a verse of scripture when, one, you haven't pulled the beam out of your own eye, for starters. For two, we have a strained relationship. For my own peace of mind and sanity and emotional well-being, I cannot be close with my mother because of situations like this, where she'll call me up and she'll belittle me, and she'll, I was trying to talk to her on the phone and tell her, well, maybe work with a therapist and, address those issues and start there, because she was wanting to put plans in place or set goals to get my niece back because she missed her. And those are good goals. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think first and foremost, before she can do anything, she needs to focus on herself and take care of herself before she can start worrying about other people. And that's where I was going with the conversation. Take this time to focus on you. Go to therapy and really get in the nitty-gritty of why you are the way you are and what makes you do what you do or think how you think. And I was trying to be an encouragement. But I realized no matter what I tell her, whether it's in a loving way, a harsh way, or what, she's going to perceive it as me being her child, trying to parent her, being the parent. And that's not what I'm doing. So I had to realize on the phone conversation that it wasn't really going to go anywhere, and she was going to take offense to it no matter what. So I just had to end it. I just had to get off the phone with her and, let it be what it is. But for anybody else who may have seen the video and was triggered, I guess, calm down. I love my parents. I'm not saying I hate them with every cell or fiber of my being. That's not what I'm saying. Am I mad? Am I angered at how they treated me and things that happened? Yes. But I think all of us have had things that have happened in our lives, times that we can recall, whether it's one or two times, whether it's your whole childhood, whether it was recent or in the past. It doesn't matter. We've all had things that have happened to us that we don't agree with how our parents handled it, how they handled the situation with us, and maybe we're holding on to that. And as a Christian, I tried years ago. I thought, okay, the power's in me. I just have to forgive and let go. And so I took it to God in prayer, and I said, you know what, Lord, here it is. This is why I'm upset. I came to him with a heavy heart, and I left it in prayer at his feet and gave it to him. And I thought that was it. That's all there is to it. You just have to forgive and let it go. But that's not all there is to it. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And what happens is when you go through emotional trauma, physical trauma, any sexual trauma or abuse or neglect or anything, your body holds on to that. And so I struggled with recently, why am I 35 years old and I'm still hurt and upset by what happened to me as a kid? Well, this is why. Because the body keeps the score. Your body's going to recall all the emotions and everything that you felt as a kid growing up until you properly deal with that. And it's not just a one-time thing. You can't just say, okay, well, I went to therapy for 6 months and I'm done. When you get caught up in the feeling, let's say you're out and about with friends and somebody says something and you automatically take offense. You need to stop and ask yourself, well, why am I feeling this way? Because they're not directing it towards me. So why do I feel like they're directing it towards me? What is making me feel this way? Oh, okay. I'm feeling this way because years ago, this is what so-and-so did to me, or this is what so-and-so said to me.
In 2 miles, use the right lane to take exit 64A for I-79 south toward Washington.
What happens is when you're in that and you're able to recognize that you're acting that way, it's important to stop and figure out why you're acting that way, what's causing it, and then take some deep breaths, breathe through it, and tell yourself it's okay. I don't live in that time anymore. That person's no longer a part of my life, or they don't have control over me, or whatever the issue is. And meditation works wonders, but it's an ongoing thing. You never fully stop working on trauma, in my opinion. You can get to a point where you're more functional and you're more kind and more giving and more outgoing and more compassionate. But when you get to a place where you grow weary of well-doing and you become bitter and vindictive, those are some red flags.
Use the right lane to take exit 64A for I-79 south toward Washington.
But I wanted to get on here and do the video in case there was any triggers for anybody else. I would say that if you are triggered, you're either a codependent or you're a narcissist. More than likely a narcissist. And that's not to be mean, that's
Use
just
the right
stating
lane
facts.
to take exit 64A, then keep right at the fork.
But she, like I said, she called me. I was trying to be an encouragement and talk to her. I also mentioned the book to her, but in her mind, I don't know if it's the narcissism or if it's just her as a parent, but narcissists find it hard to see others as autonomous beings, you know, being your separate person. They see their kids as an extension of themselves. And for her, I think that's true, because anytime I do or say something, it's just automatically rolled as being disrespectful. It's not, okay, I hear you, I understand. It's not coming from a place of understanding. It's just, well, that's just disrespectful. And I've chosen to not, you know, play into that, not allow it to affect me. But I did want to get on here and make a video real quick and just give clarity. Hopefully I didn't go on too many rabbit trails. Hopefully I didn't repeat myself too many times. But I did. I know I did. And you guys can comment below. You can ask me any questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability and my knowledge. But again, I want to say, and I know I've repeated this at least a couple of times, this video is not intended to put my narcissistic mother down or to get people who view this video to call her names or belittle her. In fact, I would ask you not to do that. Because I do love my mom. I'm not trying to hurt her. I'm just trying to state facts. And, oh look, another van like ours. Squirrel. I just want to bring attention and awareness to it. Maybe you have somebody in your life who is a narcissist and maybe you don't realize it. Maybe you don't want to believe it. Maybe you're in denial. But the facts are the facts. And as a kid, I was never taught healthy boundaries. I was never taught that it's okay to feel my emotions. I was taught that it's not okay to question people, especially my parents. I was taught that it was very disrespectful. I mean, you know, given the comments I told you from my mother, I was taught it was very disrespectful to question their authority or question their feelings or even have feelings myself. And definitely, I wasn't supposed to express them. My mom's done some things. She's messed up. She's made mistakes just like the rest of us. We are all sinners born into this sin nature, and nobody is perfect. But when you have to be open to taking accountability for your own actions and take responsibility for that, and not just repent of it, not just say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this again, but then you have to actually act on it and ensure, you know, pay attention to yourself, how you're feeling, your motives, your intentions, your thought process in any given situation, and think, okay, am I upset because of something that happened in my past? Am I upset because I really think they're directing this toward me? Am I canceling last minute plans with somebody I made months in advance because I feel slighted or I feel like they are just being disrespectful? Like, are you doing it in a vindictive way? You really need to step back and meditate on yourself, your actions, your thought process, how you're feeling, and what's motivating how you're feeling, and if that's healthy or not. A lot of us who come from trauma and abuse and neglect don't know what healthy looks like. We're just going off of this psychological cycle that was built into our thought process, or is the foundation of our thought process because of what we've been through. So we don't know what healthy is. We don't know what it looks like. But healthy does not constantly bring up the past. It does not belittle you, whether they're under the influence of alcohol or not. It does not excuse their behavior. It definitely does not evade taking accountability or responsibility for one's actions. And it definitely does not say, okay, you're right, I'm sorry, just to end an argument or just to please the other person and tell them what we think they want to hear. What I want from my mom is for her to see where she's messed up and not live in the past all the time. I want her to see her mistakes and pay more attention to who she is as a person, to learn from those mistakes and then put into action and work towards and make a good effort in ensuring that she doesn't do that to somebody else. Because that's part of learning. That's part of changing your ways. And I think the reason why what she did to me hurts so much is the fact that she hasn't changed. I mean, she'll tell me she admits that she's made mistakes and that she's not perfect, but nobody is. And that's quote unquote. I'll admit, quote, I'll admit I've made mistakes and that I'm not perfect, but nobody's perfect, unquote. And then she'll turn the conversation around and do a 360 and say, but you don't understand how bad of a kid you were and blah, 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 blah. Yes, my parents divorced when I was young. I was told that I had caught an apartment on fire. It wasn't on purpose. I remember the fire, but that was purely accidental. I had flooded an apartment, but that wasn't intentional. I can't see any child intentionally, unless they're taught to do that by example or by coaching. I can't see any child purposely allowing their sibling out of their crib to go to the tub and plug it and fill it with water and drain or flood an apartment. It's just facts are the facts. And again, my mom was a single parent, but again, she chose to get a divorce from my dad. She was, as far as I know, she was the one that decided she didn't want to be in that marriage anymore. And I'm glad for them that they decided to get a divorce, because it was nothing but fighting. And she's trying to say that because of all of these things that I don't remember. I don't remember flooding an apartment. I don't remember taking my sister out on the roof. I don't remember shoving cheese down her, in her mouth at an age where she couldn't even chew properly, or chew solid foods yet. I don't know what the situation was there. I don't remember, like I said. But I do know that one of the things I recall asking is, well, where was she when all this happened? If I did all this stuff and she's supposed to be the parent, where was I? Or where was she, when I was doing this? Why didn't she pay attention? Right? And I don't know about other parents. And again, this isn't to bash her or put her down or beat her up or get you guys to do that. This is just to get people thinking, to get people to be aware. A healthy relationship, you have to have self-accountability. You have to be willing to put in work on yourself, the part of yourself, and in that relationship. You have to make an effort. One of the things she told me on the phone last night was she couldn't understand why I go visit my dad and allow the kids around him. And there's some things with my dad, and it's not my business to put on here. Some mistakes that he's made on his own part, and he's admitted that. He's come out and said that it was a mistake. He wished he would have never done it. He don't know what he was thinking, and he went to the Lord and confessed it before him, and he hasn't done it since. He changed. He took accountability. He took responsibility for his actions. He went to God and confessed it. He confessed it publicly. There were legal steps and situations that he had to take because of his decision, and he's learned his lesson. And if I honestly felt like his actions or the type of person that he was, or like if I thought that what he went through would affect my kids in a way that it would be influential or abusive or neglectful or hurtful to them, then clearly as a responsible parent I would not take them around. But the way that my mother makes it seem is that we're constantly around him. We're not. I have not seen my dad since, I think it was a few months ago. But then prior to that, I don't think we were down there in person. And he doesn't really reach out to me. So I don't really reach out to him until he reaches out to me. But it's usually me that's making the effort. And one of her points was, well, you allow your kids around him after what the mistakes that he's made. My dad has taken accountability and responsibility. He's confessed it. He's taken the legal steps necessary. the consequences that came with that decision and dealt with them. He is currently dealing with them. And it is a complete change in difference between the two when comparing them. And that's what she's doing. She's comparing herself with my dad. I don't go to my dad's all the time, if at all. I don't take my kids around there a whole lot. I don't visit her a whole lot. They're both forms of toxic relationships. They both have their own issues that they need to work out. And even though my dad took accountability and responsibility for that one mistake that he made and, is dealing with the consequences responsibly, he was still an emotionally absent parent. And one of the reasons why I don't take my kids around them is because I don't want them growing up thinking, well, how come my mom's dad never spent time with us? How come he never did anything with us or shown interest in us like that? Like the way I felt, unloved, just annoyed with me all the time. Everything was always my fault, that sort of thing. And the same thing with my mom. My mom, when she came up for the week that I brought her up over the summer, it was almost like she bit her tongue and she wouldn't say anything to after my husband and my kids were in bed. Then, because she was under the influence and belligerent, well, she's belligerent to begin with, but when you add alcohol to the mix, there's no talking, there's no reasoning with a narcissist, but especially when they're under the influence of anything. It doesn't matter what you say, in their mind they're always right and you're always wrong. And those are facts. This isn't based off feelings, it's just cold, hard facts. And so in her mind, she's always right, I'm always wrong. She's always the parent, which means she's always right. She's always held at a higher, what do I want to say? A higher position than me. And because I'm the child, I don't know anything. I don't know anything from right or wrong unless she tells me, because I'm the child and she's the parent. Those are the facts. That's how she talks to me. Well, I won't go into that, but the point of the matter is that she's trying to compare herself with my dad. And she's under the misunderstanding or maybe the presumption that I go visit my dad all the time, and I don't. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm focused on me and my healing. And I want to be the best mom and wife that I can be, as well as be the best citizen and Christian that I can be. And I can't do that if I'm holding on to things from the past. Now, mind you, I don't ever bring up the past to my parents unless, like recently, I sat down at my dad's and I told him how I felt, why I felt that way, and why he never spent time with me. And his response is not necessary for me to state here because it's nobody's business. But it was pretty much a typical response that I expected. And I really didn't get any answers. And I had just decided, for my own emotional well-being, that I'm done putting in effort in any relationship, whether it's my parents, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a church member, whether it's siblings. I'm not going to go out of my way to put forth energy into a relationship if nobody's willing to reciprocate that. And people have really shown me their true colors. I understand that it's hard for anybody to get out, especially during this year. But at some point, you have to decide, okay, I'm going to go hang out with them. Okay, I'm going to go visit them. Or, you know what I mean? You decide whether you're going to follow through and stick to your word. It's plain and simple. And that's I'm not even going to say that. But so I decided, to love my mother from a distance. And there's nothing saying that I can't forgive her and love her from a distance. There's nothing saying that just because she has issues, which we all do, it's not to single her out, isn't to say that we don't all have our own issues. And But because she has her issues, that doesn't mean that I have to allow her to be a toxic part of my child's life. If that hurts, if that bothers you...
800 feet, turn right onto Pennsylvania 519 South.
Then I'm sorry you're letting it bother you that much. Because I'm not doing it to hurt anybody's
feelings. Turn right
feelings.
onto Pennsylvania 519 South.
I'm doing it. I've decided this to protect my children from any hurt that could possibly be incurred.
Continue on Pennsylvania 519 South for 1 mile.
Allowing them a relationship or an active part in their life. Not so much a relationship, but an active part of their life, because they're going to have a relationship with her no matter what, because she'll always be their grandmother. And there's no denying that. Whether we visit her every day or we visit her once a year, we don't visit at all, she's still their grandmother, period. And kids are so influential that is another reason why I don't take my kids around her very often. I don't want them thinking that the person that they see is some great, wonderful, awesome person and put her on a pedestal and think highly of her, and then when she does or says something and lets them down and hurts them, they're left wondering why, trying to pick up pieces. And when they get older and they move out of my house and they decide they want to seek out a relationship with her, then that's between them, God, and her, and whatever other person they seek to have a relationship with. But right now, I'm their parent. I know what's best for them, and I'm doing what I think is best. And for that, I don't apologize. And if she doesn't agree with that, then I don't know what to tell her, except for, I'm sorry that you're so sensitive, that you're allowing everything to affect you in a way that was not intended to affect you. The same thing goes for my dad. I love both of them, and I told her my mom last night on the phone, if I didn't love you, I don't see your other two kids,
in a quarter mile, turn right to stay on Pennsylvania 519 South.
Calling the state police in your area and asking them to go do a welfare check because I haven't heard from you in months. I don't see my brother, paying some website, and that's not to say that he doesn't love her, he does, but he deals with it in his own way. I paid a website. Granted, it was only like $25, but I still paid a website.
Take the next right to stay on Pennsylvania 519 South.
To Google her name and her ex-boyfriend's name, and to bring up a bunch of numbers that I spent a good day's worth calling around and trying to get a hold of people that might have a number
on Pennsylvania 519 South for 4 miles.
An address to where I could reach her at, and they I had no luck. My last resort was calling the police, so I called the police, and they sent somebody over to do a welfare check. Then I come to find out that she had reached out to my aunt and had my aunt get a hold of me and let me know that she was okay, which is fine, whatever. But I wouldn't have went through all of that trouble to check on her and make sure she was okay if I didn't love her. So just keep in mind that a narcissist will say whatever to get a reaction out of you. If she doesn't think I love her, then that sounds like a personal problem, because I know better than that. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to be on here long, and it's been about 45 minutes. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. If you have any questions, you can comment below. Again, this was just to give clarity to a previous video that I put on YouTube for anybody that may have been quote-unquote triggered. And if my mom watches this, which I'm sure she'll probably be looking for, because she's a narcissist and they like to see you react, so I'm sure she's waiting for my reaction, and this is my reaction. I love you. You're always in my prayers. You'll always be my mother. I'll always love you no matter what you do or don't do, or what you say or don't say. But as far as being disrespectful, I know she's clearly off with that, and I've mentioned that many times, so I'm not going to say it again. But I hope you guys have a good day. Stay safe. Don't allow the government to dictate your life to you. Don't allow them to tell you what you can and cannot do. We live in America. We are free people. We can decide for ourselves, within our constitutional rights and freedoms, how we are allowed to or decide to live or go about our lives. If you wear a mask, good for you. If you don't, good for you. I'm all for everybody making their own personal informed decisions. If you decide for yourself that wearing a mask is good, then good for you. But if you're allowing the government to fearmonger you and to scare you into wearing a mask, you need to take a step back and evaluate why you're allowing them to do that, and why you're so fearful, and why you're so easily manipulated. If you don't wear a mask, maybe you're just being ignorant and you don't care about others' health. Well, then I would strongly suggest you also take a step back and evaluate why you're being so callous and careless. I'm not saying that you need to go put a mask on to show that you care, but you should still be respectful of other people's health. Don't go breathing on people in the stores or in restaurants, or being on top of everybody because your personal preference is you could care less about the virus. That's fine. But there are people in the world that do care about the virus, and at least have a little bit of decorum to social distance if you're not going to wear a mask. Again, I hope you guys stay free thinking and make your own informed decisions, but don't do something just to be an ass about it. Don't follow rules just because you're scared the government's going to come in and take your kids away or take your guns, because they can't do that. And I can tell you right here and right now, it'll be over my cold dead body before somebody tells me what I can do as a free American with my kids, as whether or not I make them wear a mask or not, or whether or not I'm going to wear a mask. And if somebody comes in and tries to take our guns away, there is going to be a fight to the death. You can guarantee that. So, you guys stay free thinkers, be kind, be considerate, and above all, don't allow people to hold things over you and dictate to you what you can and cannot do. Learn your constitutional rights and your freedoms.